everybody, this is part 3 of my 4-part series on the conflict between Google and publishers. I'm going to try to give some perspective on how publishing got into the current mess and what to do about it. After discussing copyright in part 1 and search in part 2, I'm ready to get into the heart of the matter in this section, which is about AI. In part 4, I'll discuss what comes next. Now, generative AI is obviously the big issue for publishers. Is generative AI a useful new tool, or is it an industry-destroying calamity? I'll discuss that broad question a little bit more in part 4, but right now I want to talk about it in more practical terms. A popular search on Google is how old is some celebrity, Tom Cruise, or how old is some politician, or how tall is so-and-so, or who is so-and-so married to? Some enterprise people built some database-driven websites specifically around those questions. They wanted to get that traffic and get their penny of advertising revenue. It was a very smart model. But now, if you type, how old is Michelle Obama, Google doesn't send you to one of those websites. It just gives you the answer. In that narrow way, Google is no longer a discovery tool. It's an answer engine. Wikipedia is facing the same problem. Wikipedia has had a long run at the top of the search engine results page for many queries. If you searched for the Battle of Trafalgar, Wikipedia was the top result. It still is, actually. But now, next to the list of web pages, Google provides a quick summary from Wikipedia. That summary might be enough to answer your question. So Wikipedia loses that page view. There's no reason to click through if that summary is enough. Now, I'm a fan of Star Trek, and I like science fiction movies. I've never seen a version of the future where someone asks the computer a question and it replies with a list of articles to read. No, what it does is it answers the question. AI has made that possible. ChatGPT doesn't give you homework, it gives you an answer. In that world, how can publishers monetize their content? People won't be clicking through to your webpage. They'll want to get an answer from AI, which might have stolen the answer from your content. Now, you may remember that Lando Calrissian made a bargain with Darth Vader, but Vader simply did what he wanted to do because nobody could stop him. I am altering the deal, he said. Pray I don't alter it further. I find it amusing that Darth Vader is the only character in Star Wars who encourages us to pray. The point here is that there was a deal. Crawling, scraping, and indexing your content was accepted by publishers because it fed an algorithm that provided discovery for your website. Now, I don't think it was smart to accept that deal, but that was the deal. Darth Vader, by which I mean Google and all the AI monsters out there, have altered the deal. Now they slurp up your content not so that you can be found, but so that they can replace you. Now, I would like to believe that publishers had a grand long-term strategy for how they were going to make this internet thing work. The reality is that they just capitulated to big tech and grabbed what scraps they could along the way. If there was anything like a strategy, it was something like, okay, we'll put our content out there for free and we'll follow all these crazy SEO rules, but we'll set the terms for use once you come to our site. We'll show ads, we'll bug you to sign up for our e-newsletter, we'll ask you to register or subscribe, and so on. But it was all premised on discovery and traffic from search. AI has ripped that deal to shreds. They steal your content and answer the questions that your readers are asking. You're not necessary anymore. Now, why would you go to a website and read an article to find an answer to your question when AI will just give you the answer? The strategy that publishers adopted in the era of Google-dominated search won't work in the developing era of AI-generated answers. Just as Google undermined the business model of sites that gave details on celebrities, how tall is Tom Hanks and that sort of thing, generative AI is going to undermine search, which will reduce traffic to your site. In the old model, if you wanted your content found, you had to allow the search engines to crawl, scrape, and index your content. But now those very same bots are feeding your competition, which is generative AI. Why let them do that? Why not cut off the bots? That's a difficult question. If your revenue model depends on search traffic, you still want these search crawlers to index your content. But that's also feeding the generative AI that is working to undermine you. The smart thing to do right now is to change your terms and conditions to explicitly forbid anyone to use your content to train AI. Now, I doubt the copyright thieves in big tech will honor that, but at least you've placed a stake in the ground, and it might prove some help later when all this goes to court. Now, I've mentioned that the era of search is coming to a close. When it's a choice between a tool that will answer your question and a tool that gives you additional work to do, the former will win. That is, people will migrate away from search and towards chatbots. Google's chatbot recently had an amusing public relations disaster, but that's not the real threat to Google, in my opinion. I'm wondering if Google is so tied to its ad business model that it won't be able to compete with other LLMs that start fresh without all that baggage. We'll see. Personally, I have a love-hate relationship with Google. I love their services. I hate their arrogance. Now, right this second, AI bots are scraping your content that you paid to create. They're using your content to train their large language models and creating products to compete against you. Are you going to allow them to continue to do that? The nuclear option is to amend your robots.txt file and block them on the back end. That's difficult. I'm not saying it's simple, but that's the nuclear option. That you can try that, block them at the server level. But that also means killing your own search traffic, which is, that's a risk, right? What you should certainly do is amend your terms and conditions to say that your content may not be used to train AI without your explicit consent. At the same time, you should create your own large language model in your area of specialty, and you should work to characterize the general LLMs as unreliable and unbiased. For example, ChatGPT doesn't know as much about investing as we do, that sort of thing. To the extent that you can, you should work to promote appropriate rules for how large language models use copyrighted material. And you should look into Creative Commons licensing. I discussed those things in the previous section. Finally, break free from the free content supported by ads mindset. It might still be the correct model for some publishers in some markets, but don't allow it to reign in your thoughts as the default model. Start thinking about other ways to monetize your content. Generative AI is a huge threat to publishers. We're very late to the game in thinking all this through, but better late than never. In the final section, I'll talk about what to do next. So those are my thoughts about generative AI and how it's affecting publishers. I'll wrap this all up in part 4, which will be available tomorrow. Thanks so much for your time.